Hey there. Happy Wednesday. Hope everybody is having a fabulous week so far. So I am here today to talk a little bit about foods and hormones. And hormones are a really kind of big word lately, especially when it comes to perimenopause and menopause. And I guess I shouldn't say lately, but it's just talked about more often now. But hormones are the reason we go through perimenopause and menopause. But there are ways that we can help to stabilize those hormones a little bit, even when we are in our 40s and over. Okay, so if you are somebody who's dealing with weight gain, low energy, mood swings, stubborn belly fat, any or all of the above, then definitely keep watching, because I'm going to explain to you how certain foods can impact our hormone balance and cause those things to happen, cause the weight gain, cause the low energy, the mood swings, and stubborn belly fat. So, but before I get into those top 3 foods that really impact this, I want you to know that I am not here to demonize any foods. Okay, I just want to share this information to empower you to make better choices. I do not believe that we have to fully give up any food, because when we have that sort of mindset, that is when we really struggle to stay consistent. Because as soon as you're told you can never have chocolate chip cookies anymore, then the only food that you're going to be thinking about are chocolate chip cookies. So I don't ever want to demonize any foods. And, another thing is, when we do demonize food, we give it a lot more power over us than it should have. Okay, so, as I am talking about these 3 foods that do affect our hormones, just know that the information is just to help you, empower you to make better choices, and you don't have to completely cut these foods out of your diet. Okay, so the first food that I want to talk about is refined sugar. Okay, this sugar of any sort, but especially these refined sugars, they cause these blood sugar spikes and then crashes. Okay, so we've all seen kids on Halloween when they eat the candy and they get this huge sugar high. Okay, that's that spike in their blood sugar, and then they crash, right? And they're like, they're ready for bed right away. Same thing happens to us when our blood sugar spikes and crashes. We don't feel so good, and that also leads to surges of cortisol in our bloodstream. And cortisol is a stress hormone. And also it leads to insulin resistance, which can have a lot of negative effects on our body, and could lead to type 2 diabetes. So we want to just be very, very careful with the amount of refined sugar that we are eating. Refined sugar can also worsen your hot flashes if you are having them already. It can make your sleep disturbances even worse, and it can lead to even more belly fat storage. So there's a lot of negatives to eating lots of refined sugar. It can also increase inflammation, which throws off your estrogen balance. And our estrogen already during perimenopause is going wacko, haywire, all over the place. So if we add in a lot of refined sugar in our diet, that is going to throw off that estrogen balance even more so. Okay, so if you are somebody who has a sweet tooth, and I totally get it because I am that person, my first tip to you is to try to eat naturally sweet foods that also have fiber in them. So think of like your fruits, your berries, your apples, even dates, as long as you're not going crazy with a ton of dates, because they do have a bit more concentrated sugar in them because it's a dried fruit. Any of your dried fruits are going to have more concentrated sugar. Even though it is natural sugar, it's still kind of calorie dense when that happens. But any of those naturally sweet foods, see if those can help you with your sweet tooth cravings. Another suggestion is to pair your sweets with a protein or a fat. Okay, so think like dark chocolate and almonds. So dark chocolate is your sweet, almonds are your fat. When you pair the refined sugar with a protein or a fat, it helps to kind of blunt that blood sugar spike, so we don't have that happening as bad as it would if you were just eating something sweet and then you get that crazy spike and then drop in your blood sugar, and that leads to all of those other things that I just talked about. So if you are going to eat something sweet, pair it with either a fat or a protein. Okay. The second food that can really kind of affect our hormones are our ultra processed carbohydrates. So these are things like white bread, white pasta, crackers, cereal, granola bars, and most snacks that are kind of labeled as diet snacks, most of those are most of them are these ultra processed carbohydrates. And the problem with these ultra processed carbohydrates is that they digest very quickly, which then leads to more blood sugar issues. So sugar itself is a carbohydrate. So when you're eating these ultra processed carbs and they are digesting very quickly, that's going to lead to that blood sugar spike and then fall off, same as refined sugar does. These ultra-processed carbohydrates can also interfere with your thyroid function, okay, if your gut health is kind of struggling already. So if you are somebody who does have thyroid issues or gut health issues, the ultra-processed carbohydrates are going to make those even worse. They're also often full of a lot of additives. So if you were to look at the ingredients on any of these ultra processed carbohydrates, you won't be able to pronounce the majority of the ingredients that are in this, and there's usually a lot of ingredients. And these additives, they often also mess with our gut bacteria, and our gut really is key to detoxing our hormones. So if those additives are messing with that helpful gut bacteria that we need, that causes even more issues with our hormones. Okay, so what can you eat outside of these ultra processed carbohydrates? And another thing, like most things that are packaged are typically ultra processed. So just kind of a rule of thumb, not everything, but most things. So swap the ultra processed carbohydrates for slower digesting carbohydrates. So things like sweet potatoes, oats, quinoa, going for whole grain pastas instead of just white pasta, get the whole grain version. Anything like typically white carbohydrate is going to be more fast digesting and more of an ultra processed carbohydrates, because if you picture a piece of whole grain bread and a piece of white bread, they look very, very different, and that's because those whole grains had to keep being processed and processed and processed to create the white flour that the white bread is made out of. So they lose a lot of their nutrients when they're being processed, loses the fiber. So look for carbohydrates that have fiber and other nutrients that we need, okay? Not just the empty calories of, say, a bag of chips or a couple slices of white bread. Rule of thumb, when you are eating bread for anything, look for bread that has at least the very minimum 3 grams of fiber per slice. You have a much better chance of that not affecting your blood sugar the more fiber that it has. Okay, and same thing with your pastas and things like that. So the more fiber in a carbohydrate, the better it is for you because it's been processed much less. Okay, so final food that I want to talk about is your industrial seed oils. So these are things like canola oil, soybean oil, corn oil. Corn oil is found in most salad dressings and most of your packaged snacks and in a lot of your takeout foods. These industrial seed oils are very high in omega-6s, which contributes to inflammation. So you may have heard that omega-3s are really good for you. Avocados have a lot of omega-3s in them. It's a type of fat that is beneficial, but these industrial seed oils have omega-6s, and that leads to more inflammation. And if we have chronic inflammation in our bodies, that leads to a lot of chaos with our hormones, especially with our estrogen and our cortisol, okay? And both those, if we have a lot of chaos with those two hormones, that can lead to weight gain, especially in the belly area, and all of those other issues that I mentioned earlier. These industrial seed oils are often, when they're created, they're heated to really, really high temperatures, which oxidizes them, and that really stresses our body as well, which then leads to more cortisol and so on and so forth. So what should you eat instead? Okay, I highly recommend when you are cooking, cook with avocado oil, olive oil, or grass-fed butter. Okay, those are your healthiest cooking fats. Okay. And in terms of salad dressing, since a lot of salad dressings are made with these industrial seed oils, make your own simple salad dressing. You just need a little bit of olive oil, some lemon, and some vinegar. Mix it up and you have your own salad dressing. You know exactly what is in there. You know, you can read the ingredients because you put them in there yourself, and you're not going to have to worry about any of the issues that come from eating too many industrial seed oils. Okay, so to recap, the 3 main foods that you really want to be careful with, I'm not saying cut out entirely, just kind of upgrade your go-tos when it comes to these. You want those refined sugars, the ultra-processed carbohydrates, and your industrial seed oils. So if you can cut those down to a minimum, okay, you don't have to completely cut them out, but, make the, swaps here and there. Start paying attention to the ingredient label when you're purchasing, things that, especially things that come in packages. Take a look and can you pronounce the majority of the ingredients? Do you know what they are? If not, then that's probably an ultra processed food, and it would be better to find, maybe a different swap for it. And just keep in mind that making these, small swaps, but consistently making the small swaps can have a really big impact on your hormone health, on your energy levels, on the amount of cravings that you have, on the amount of belly fat that you have. So just you don't have to jump in and cut out all 3 of these and, totally overwhelm yourself, but just pay attention more. Maybe start first paying attention to how much refined sugar you are having in your diet, and really focusing on making some swaps there. And once you feel comfortable with removing a lot of the refined sugars, then maybe focus on the ultra processed carbohydrates and see how many of those that you can find healthier swaps for. And then, moving on to the oils. So let me know if you have any questions. And again, this is not demonizing these foods. It's just becoming aware of what they could do to your body. And that awareness allows you to make healthier choices for yourself. All right, so let me know if you have any questions about any of this. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week, and I'll talk to everybody soon. Take care.